Hey everyone, it's the Make Better Show, back from holiday hiatus. Uh, Hope you had a good Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or if you don't celebrate any of those three, I hope you at least had a good solstice. So the days are going to be getting longer now. We're through the shortest and coldest, ideally, of the days. So with any luck, I'll be able to start coming home with a little bit of sunlight out to maybe shoot some arrows or take the dog for a walk without a flashlight. And yeah, it's been an interesting week. A lot of being social, which I've always been weird about. Where it's like my go-to would be to stay at home, and I'm good company for myself. I think that's very important. I believe I've mentioned this multiple times, but if you can't stand to be with yourself, then how can you expect anybody else to be around with you? So I've always been good with just being alone with myself. But once I'm actually out and being social, I really do enjoy that as well. So, I'm always torn, and I definitely notice a drain on the batteries when it's a lot of social events all at once. I need to take some time to recharge my batteries, I guess. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't plan on doing anything for the new year besides maybe, getting an oil change, early in the day on New Year's Eve because I have that huff. And beyond that, just I don't even know if I'm necessarily going to watch the ball drop. I don't know about you, but I have always found the ball drop to be so anticlimactic. It's like if you're going to have a ball go down, that's fine, but it would be nice if there was like a clear, line for it to actually touch for it to be the official new year. It just seems like it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, and then at a certain point, it's the next year. I've never understood that. It's like it can, or even having the ball like dip behind a sunset, or dip behind some kind of partition so that it's like when you can't see the ball anymore, the ball has set on the previous year. I know that this is just a very minor complaint and I'm splitting hairs, but that's just how I always thought that it should go. And I don't even remember how it went down last year, if there was a whole bunch of people in the square, if it was empty, or how that went down. But yeah, staying up till midnight to watch the ball drop is just why. If I wake up in the morning, it'll be the new year and I can celebrate it, quote unquote, then. So that's the next thing to look forward to. So here we are. It's winter. We've, at least in the area that I'm at, we've finally had a couple of dumpings of snow. Um, yeah, it was actually kind of freaky. Um, there's a lake across the street from us that um, probably was just going to be. It's a small enough. Sorry, it's a pond. So it's a small enough pond that it was probably going to be cold enough for it to be able to support people, so they can go ice fishing. One of my neighbors actually smooths it off and makes a little skating rink, and that might have been all well and good, but either during the wind or during the storm, I don't remember I don't know exactly when it fell, but apparently a big old tree fell right under the pond. Broke the ice. Now it's kind of just sticking half in and half out, and that's probably going to have to stay there until spring when it thaws and we're able to actually clear it up a little bit. But thankfully, it fell in that direction and not the opposite. If it had fallen in the opposite direction, it very well might, would have knocked out the power lines, blocked the street, and possibly even potentially hit the neighbor's house. So, I am glad that it at least fell in the right direction, but that was still pretty scary. When you're around big trees, there's always that risk of one going the wrong way. And yeah, trees exploding is a very real thing. It gets, wet on the inside, a little bit of wind happens, and now all that frozen water doesn't want to sway. The tree swaying is what keeps them from, getting uprooted, which is kind of fascinating. So that's how a vine can actually kill a tree. Is it can wrap itself around the tree so that the tree can't sway in the breeze, and so if it can't, then the only give that it has is its roots, and it can actually fall over. So similar to how a frozen tree will act, but that's probably some of the more big excitement going on locally. Um, I don't know if I is this kind of a time capsule if I should start, you know, documenting some of the stuff that's going on in the news, just so that if I ever rewatch any of these, I could just be like, oh yeah, so that was what was going on. But I just assume that the people that pay attention to the news have already heard it, and the people that don't aren't really coming here to see that hear about it. So I usually just kind of avoid doing that, but maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to start. So yeah, I don't know if you did participate in any of the gift exchanges. Hopefully, you got some good stuff. Hopefully, the stuff that you get other people they reacted happily to, which is always more fun. I mean, yes, getting stuff is always fun, but if you get just that right thing for somebody that they weren't expecting and or really needed, and they're just like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" So yeah, I had a couple favorite gifts, but I think one of them that's really cool that I hope to do and be able to show you because it's kind of fascinating is um, it's a little wooden movie projector that you put together yourself, and once it is all done and completed, you can actually play like a little mini reel of a movie. So it's an actual functioning one, and it's pretty neat. It's going to be kind of fun to maybe build that while watching TV. I've mentioned it before, but this is something that I always miss is that I'm not proud of the fact that I smoke so much that I was rolling my own cigarettes, but one thing that I always enjoyed was having something to do while watching TV so that I feel more accomplished. So, for instance, folding laundry while you watch TV. So that way you're like, well, at least I'm getting laundry done as I watch my shows. That was one thing that I always liked to do was, to pre-roll, a good pack of cigarettes while I was watching TV. So, smoking's bad and don't do it. But yeah, I always do enjoy. So I totally get the whole knitting. It's something that I never really got into. I don't think that it should be a female thing only, and I think that it's just a really smart way to keep your hands and your mind busy while you're paying attention to something else. So, and at the end of it, you have something to show for it. You have, a sock or a scarf or what, sweater if you're really crazy. Um, but yeah, little hobbies like that to keep yourself mentally and physically stimulated, even if you're just sitting around doing nothing, is just so important. That's a great way to make better, I think. Is find something that you can do that you don't necessarily have to fully pay attention to, so that you're not missing parts of the show and have to rewind it, and whoever you're watching it with just starts getting annoyed at you. But something that you can do so that hey, maybe you have something to show for it at the end, and you feel like you actually get something done rather than just getting caught up on a particular show or movie. And speaking of that, it's just I used to be such a cinephile, and even before COVID and everything, I definitely was not going to the movies as often as I would have wanted to. I miss back when I lived all the way, across the states. There was this really cool movie theater that it was neat what they did. So they they would run a movie, through regular theaters, and then there was always that period of time between the movie being out of theaters and then a DVD release. Now they basically just drop at the same time. It's kind of weird, but back then that theater would play movies that were no longer in theaters but weren't out on DVD yet, and they were like a fraction of the price. And that used to be one of my favorite things to do, so I could actually watch, because some movies it's just like, okay, well, if it's a drama piece or a comedy, you don't necessarily need to have it up on the big screen because it isn't really something visual. But if it's something highly special effects laden or action based, having it up on the big screen is super fun. So I try to make sure to watch any of the big action pieces that I was interested in the movie theater, and then they closed down. It was unfortunate. It was like one of the last few um, places that were actually in what was then an abandoned mall, which is nuts. It's so nuts walking through. Like for instance, right now I shop at a mostly abandoned mall that still has a Shaw's and like a couple other places in it. But for the most part, it's just empty store after empty store, and it's just like a mostly deserted hallway. Um, somewhat poorly lit because it's like they're not. Well, why would we replace every single light bulb if hardly anybody's using the hallway? So it's so weird seeing certain things come and go, and I mean, I'm a Blockbuster guy. That's to date me. I'm dating myself, but it's something that I grew up with Blockbuster Video. Never thought that would go away, and then Netflix, came along, and it's like, oh, you can stream from home. You can have the DVDs come straight to your door, and Blockbuster didn't I don't know, get in on time or whatever. But now it's hilarious to see that the red box is all sprouted up, and it's just like, well, isn't that just like little mini Blockbusters outside of a store? And why didn't Blockbuster either think of that or get into that? Um, yeah, you'd think that that wouldn't be a thing still, but Redbox seems to be doing great. I see them outside of every Dollar General supermarket, um, place. And what's funny is that if you don't want to have to pay for five different streaming services, that's actually a good way to watch movies that you might not have on a particular service that you have. So I mean, I guess it makes sense, and it also doesn't make sense that it's a thing. But yeah, that's pretty much one of the only ways that I watch any new movies that aren't dropped on a platform that I currently subscribe to, and it's just wild that that's where we're at now. So I don't know where I was going with that. I didn't really have much planned for this, even though I had a whole week off. You'd think that I would have more to say, but instead I was still desperately trying to fill 10 minutes. But I guess just checking in. I'm still alive, not dead. I hope you're safe and healthy out there. I hear a lot of people are starting to have new waves sweep through their bubbles. So hopefully you are either uh, haven't gotten it, or if you have, it wasn't bad. But yeah, that's just kind of how life is nowadays. I hope that you are able to find joy and happiness, and not living in fear, and not letting it get you distracted, and not paying attention to the important things, because that's oftentimes what will happen. Anytime there's a new thing to be afraid of, that's usually a distraction for something else that's even worse going on, or it's just something that's just going to mess with your mental and or physical health. And I hope that you're managing to stay um, healthy, both in the mind and in the body, and to keep yourself busy and squeeze every last little inch of joy out of life that you can get. Speaking of, I always go to phrases. So the phrase segment of the show is that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, lemons didn't occur naturally. That was something that we made. So that saying doesn't actually make sense anymore. So they really should do something else. Like if life gives you oranges, make orange juice. Or if life gives you apples, make apple juice. Because apparently lemons weren't a thing until humans. So that was an interesting little bit of trivia there. I hope I'm right on that. Don't fact check me. Or do if you want to. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure I heard that was a thing. We don't do any research here at Make Better or Nick 101 in general. All right. That's about it. I, appreciate you, and I hope that this finds you well. And I will see you next time.